I want to go on a little bit of a detour now and talk about some ideas that are going to relate back to teshuvah and the actual nature of the word teshuvah itself in Hebrew, which give a lot of context and can be very, very helpful in empowering us to be able to do a real teshuvah effectively, realistically. Because it's easy to say that we should just, teshuvah could be associated with some long-established bad habits, things that we've gotten used to, things that we've said 100 times that we're going to stop doing and we haven't managed to do, or things that we've said 100 times that we're going to start doing and we haven't managed to start doing. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be that bad, but there are very real challenges and difficulties associated with doing real, proper, true teshuvah. And I think that we could all use some help in, to level the playing field a little, because teshuvah can feel like a very steep uphill battle. And the honest truth is, it often is. But it doesn't necessarily have to be if we understand or if we can reframe the way that we see what teshuvah is and what's going on. So I want to talk about something that's going to be a bit of a very significant detour. But it's not really a detour. It's going to feel like a detour. And when it comes to, I want to talk about a very important and very, very powerful and helpful skill and technique that we can use generally in all kinds of conflict resolution. Business negotiations are a form of conflict resolution, and that could be, trying to sell your business's product, trying to strike a deal with another business, trying to ask for a raise, trying to say no to someone who asked you for a raise. These are all different forms of business negotiations. It can come up to, I don't love the word negotiation, but the reality is that sometimes that's what it is, in relationships and in marriage and discussions and compromise and finding, the reality of two people in a relationship is that there'll be differences of opinion and times that we see things differently. And again, it's a form of conflict resolution, of figuring things out. And sometimes we have to just, with friends, with acquaintances, with buddies, with whatever it is, sometimes, two humans are inevitably going to have, any two humans are inevitably going to have some form of conflict if they have enough to do with each other. And it's important to be able to resolve conflicts. Now, resolve conflict doesn't mean that the conflict disappears. It means that we resolve it. We figure it out and figure out a way to move forward healthily and positively and effectively and productively. And to come out on the other side, ideally with everyone feeling good. And oftentimes that can be achieved. It's not necessarily easy, and it's very easy, when it comes to conflict and we see things differently, especially when it's a heated conflict. It's very easy, if we don't stay focused, for things to fly off the rails and to get very terrible very quickly. And that's not ideal. And there are a lot of reasons that it's not ideal, because it can increase a lot of pain unnecessarily, etc., etc. But very simply, the most technical reason that it's not ideal is because it doesn't lead to a positive outcome, right? When we're trying to resolve a conflict, when we're trying to engage in some form of conflict resolution, whether it's in business or with friends or in a marriage or whatever it is, ultimately the thing that we want is a positive outcome. The ultimate positive outcome is when everyone feels that they got a positive outcome. But even if we look at it a little bit more selfishly, let's say that we're in conflict with someone else. We would ultimately like to achieve an outcome that's positive for us, right? Very simply speaking, we are trying to resolve this conflict. Why? And again, just looking from a very basic material, personal, and self-centered perspective, we want to resolve this conflict in order to get ourselves a positive outcome. Now, there's a tool that it can take some work to actually do and a lot of practice. It's quite basic and simple in theory. It can be, doesn't necessarily need to be that difficult, but it can take some work and practice to implement. But the idea is not that complicated, and it can be a complete game changer. It's probably one of the most powerful and important skills in changing the game of conflict resolution completely, I think. And that's the skill of separating the problem, the issue, from the person. It's a complete game changer. And this is true again in every form of conflict resolution. Conflict between friends, conflict between spouses, conflict in business negotiation. The moment that we separate the problem from the person, it changes everything.